The headlines were grim, yet not entirely surprising. After all, we've heard this story a million times before. A famous actor, loved by millions on screen, but behind closed doors, he was a demon. April Jace was no different. On television, he portrayed the hero cop, always fighting for justice. But in reality, he was everything but. Obsessed with his wife, April Jace, and paranoid of her infidelity, he became increasingly controlling and abusive towards her. Her only escape was her successful career as a world champion track and field athlete. But even that couldn't save her from her husband's wrath. When she finally gathered the courage to file for divorce, Michael wouldn't let her go without a fight. And that's when the most sinister plan was put into motion, resulting in April's tragic demise. The last words she heard from her husband: "If you like running, then run to heaven." It's a storyline straight out of a crime drama, but unfortunately, it's all too real. Financial problems can be an aggravating factor for any relationship, but in this case, it only added fuel to the fire of domestic violence. As neighbors heard gunshots ring out in their home, they knew something was terribly wrong. Despite Michael's desperate attempt to later redeem his actions and the crime he committed in front of his children, the truth could not be hidden. In real life, there are no heroes or villains, just flawed individuals with disturbing secrets lurking beneath the surface. And for April Jace, that realization came too late, as she became another victim of domestic abuse at the hands of someone she once loved and trusted. Welcome to No Tears for Black Girls, a series created and produced by award-winning author John Reedberg. I am your narrator and host, Samantha Paul, here to guide you through this powerful and important journey. Support us by downloading the Alive podcast app and subscribing to No Tears for Black Girls on any major platform or streaming us on social media. Let's spread the word and make a difference together. Los Angeles, the city of stars, where dreams are made and broken in the blink of an eye. For April, it was the place to be, a place where opportunities were endless and fame was within reach. But behind the glitz and glamour, there also lies a darker side. The people who are almost famous, but not quite. The ones who have had their moment in the spotlight, only to fade into obscurity. Like April Jace, a man whose career began in New Jersey but found its peak in Hollywood. April's story intertwines with his when she meets him on the set of one of his many small roles. She was a sweet soul with a love for running that burned just as fiercely as her passion for life. And through twists and turns, love found its way between them. But like everything else in show business, it was fleeting. For April, life became a race against time, chasing both her dreams and her health goals as she competed in track and field events. It wasn't easy being married to someone who lived for the next gig, but she loved Michael nonetheless. As the winds of fate blew stronger, April's love for running remained constant, even as her marriage faltered. And in this high-paced city of stars, anything could happen, for better or for worse. April was a force to be reckoned with on the track. Her speed and determination had taken her to national and international competitions, earning her accolades and gold medals. But running was just one of her many talents. She held a degree in early childhood and adolescent development, and had been a dedicated teacher before transitioning to financial aid counseling at Biola University. This small Christian university may have had only 4,300 undergraduates, but April loved every moment of it. Helping students achieve their dreams of higher education brought her immense joy. Meanwhile, in the entertainment industry, April Jace had found success playing the role of Julian Lowe, an intensely religious and closeted police officer on FX's hit drama, The Shield. It was a steady gig that provided for his growing family. But when the show ended in 2008, so did Michael's job security. Without a stable income, Michael began to unravel. Despite being a beautiful couple with 2 sons together and April's teenage son from a previous marriage, Their marriage was starting to suffer. Close friends revealed that Michael had expressed concerns about their relationship and even asked for prayers during this difficult time. With dwindling finances and no steady job prospects, Michael struggled to provide for his family. While he did land small roles on popular TV shows like Private Practice and The Mentalist, it wasn't enough to sustain their lavish lifestyle. In 2011, his yearly income had significantly decreased, and their financial burden fell on April's shoulders. Her job only brought in around $2,000 per month, which was not enough to support the lifestyle they were accustomed to. As a result, tensions rose between the couple as they tried to navigate this challenging situation together. Michael's stint on Southland was his most notable in recent years, but like many actors, he struggled to find steady work. The tabloids began to swirl with rumors of severe financial difficulties, and in March 2011, Michael had no choice but to file for Chapter 13 bankruptcy. With an annual income of only $80,000 from residuals, he was drowning in $500,000 of debt and defaulting on 2 mortgages for his family home. Media outlets like Entertainment Tonight got their hands on court records revealing that this wasn't the first time Michael had sought financial relief. 3 years prior, he had filed for bankruptcy again, this time with debts ranging from $500,000 to $1 million. It seemed that both he and his wife April were struggling to make ends meet. They were underwater on their mortgage and owed thousands in back taxes. To top it off, Michael's beloved Mercedes-Benz was repossessed due to missed payments. The strain of financial troubles was taking its toll on their marriage as well. Friends noticed a change in Michael's behavior when he traded in his new car for something more affordable. As his frustrations grew, so did his temper towards April. Financial struggles can often add tension to a relationship, and for a couple already dealing with domestic violence issues, it can be the breaking point. Michael felt inadequate as a provider for his family and began to suspect that April was seeking comfort elsewhere. Despite her constant reassurance and denial of infidelity, Michael couldn't shake the feeling that April was cheating on him with someone who could give her what he couldn't. He would confront her with accusations, leading to explosive fights that only pushed them further apart. The stress of finances weighed heavily on both of them. Michael felt insecure, and April carried the burden of being the sole breadwinner. They were trapped in a toxic cycle that was damaging their love for each other. And then, on May 19, 2014, it all came crashing down. In the midst of yet another heated argument, Michael's suspicions and accusations reached their peak, and April could no longer bear the constant distrust and hurtful words. She knew she couldn't prove her innocence to him anymore, and in that moment, it became clear that their marriage was beyond repair. The night of May 19th marked the end of a relationship that had once been filled with love and hope, now broken by financial strain and shattered trust. The tension between April and Michael had been building for months, and it finally reached its breaking point on that fateful night. Their teenage son, Savoy, and nephew, Christopher, were caught in the middle of their volatile relationship. As the boys tried to sleep, they heard the familiar sound of their parents arguing, escalating from words to something more physical. Fearing for their mother's safety, Savoy grabbed a bat and rushed to her defense. But even with the bat in hand, he couldn't shake off the fear and tension that filled the air. Finally, April intervened and convinced him to give up the weapon. She knew that things were spiraling out of control, and she needed to defuse the situation before it got worse. The next morning, she packed up her children and left the house, unsure if she would ever return. Meanwhile, Michael was struggling to come to terms with their crumbling marriage. He texted his friends in a desperate attempt to find solace and understanding, but it was clear that he was not in a stable state of mind. And amidst all these texts, there were 95 messages exchanged between him and April, a clear sign of their troubled relationship. It seemed like things were heading towards a peaceful resolution when Michael received an invitation from his friend to come over. But even then, he insisted that everything was falling apart, and he wouldn't make good company. And as the day wore on, his ominous texts to April foreshadowed what was about to happen. By 6 p.m., he had made up his mind. He was leaving that night. And despite multiple attempts from friends to check on him, it was clear that he had one thing on his mind: revenge. The events of that night would have a lasting impact on everyone involved, changing their lives forever. The texts between April and Michael were a constant battle, filled with pleading and accusations. The tone never changed, desperation mixed with anger. And as the day wore on, it only escalated. April tried to reason with him, asking him to stop throwing things and breaking things in their home. She was afraid to come back, but he promised he would leave for the night. Michael's words reeked of disappointment and resentment towards April for not submitting to God. But she couldn't take any more and asked him to be out of the house before she returned with their sons from a baseball game. As the day dragged on, they continued to text back and forth. April begged him to come to his son's game, not wanting him to miss out on precious moments with their family. But as time passed and Michael didn't respond, she offered to stay away from the game if it made it easier for him. And then it happened, an exchange that would be their last communication. It was 8:06 p.m., and April was texting Michael about the game he had missed. 2 minutes later, everything changed. Michael's phone went dead at 8:08 p.m., just after April had described the game to him. Police say that's when Michael shot his wife in cold blood. At 8:23 p.m., Carlos, April's stepfather, received a chilling text from Michael. "Come get the boys," it read. "I just shot April." The words sent chills down their spines as they rushed to the scene. It wasn't long after that a 911 call were made by Michael himself, admitting to shooting his wife. And just like that, their marriage ended in tragedy. The sirens pierced through the quiet streets of the Hyde Park neighborhood, signaling the arrival of officers at the Jace's family home. Michael was waiting outside, while inside, his wife April lay motionless on the living room floor. Contrary to what Michael had told the 911 operator, multiple gunshots had been fired, 2 in her leg and 1 in her back. The police received an influx of 911 calls from concerned neighbors, and when they arrived, they found Jace standing at his front door with his 2 young sons inside. It was a shocking scene that would send shockwaves through the entire community and leave Hollywood buzzing. What made this horrific act even more unfathomable was the fact that Michael had taken the life of his own wife in their own home, while their children were present. As news of the tragedy spread, friends and acquaintances struggled to understand how a seemingly happy couple could end up in such a gruesome situation. How could someone like Michael commit such a monstrous act? The following day, as investigators sat down with Michael to piece together what had transpired on May 19th, a chilling story began to unravel. He admitted to becoming angry when he received a text from April that day, hinting at her plans to go through with their divorce. In a fit of rage, fueled by alcohol and pain over the impending loss of his marriage, he decided to take away something important to April: her ability to run. He used a firearm belonging to her father and claimed it went off accidentally during a struggle with April. But as investigators searched for evidence to support his story, they found no knife on the table as Michael had suggested. As they awaited the results of April's autopsy, friends and neighbors still couldn't believe what had happened. This picture-perfect couple, who had lived in harmony for 10 years, seemed like they never fought or argued. Yet now, one was dead, and the other was facing serious charges. The community was thrown into chaos when news of the shocking and tragic events hit. Neighbors, who lived just next door to the Jaces, spoke with the press in disbelief. They recalled seeing April the day before, coming home from work with her 2 children and their groceries. Little did they know, that would be the last time anyone saw April alive. As investigators delved deeper into the case, they found no evidence of any history of domestic violence between Michael and April. It seemed as though this act was completely out of character for Michael. The man they thought they knew had committed an unspeakable act, right in front of his own children. The entire community was reeling from this senseless tragedy. But amidst all the shock and sadness, their main concern was for the well-being of the two young boys, who were now left without a mother. Everyone wondered if they had witnessed or heard what happened that night. Even Biola University, where April worked, released a statement expressing their grief and disbelief over the loss of their beloved colleague. She was described as a wonderful person, with a contagious smile and helpful spirit. Once all the evidence had been gathered, Michael's trial began. He had confessed to taking April's life, but pleaded not guilty, claiming it was not premeditated. His lawyers argued that he acted impulsively after finding out about April's request for a divorce. The big question at hand: was Michael a cold-blooded killer or a man driven to extreme measures by love? As both sides presented their cases in court, the prosecution painted a picture of Michael as a jealous and controlling husband who was obsessed with his wife's supposed infidelity. They showed text messages where he accused her of cheating on him with one of her running team members. Prosecutors also revealed that Michael had a history of abusive behavior in his previous marriage. In closing arguments, the prosecutor portrayed Michael as a man consumed by his jealousy and unable to handle the thought of losing April. He became fixated on the idea that she was having an affair, and in a fit of rage, he took her life. The jury was left to decide whether Michael's actions were premeditated or a result of uncontrollable emotions. The courtroom was tense as the woman, who knew Michael's first wife, took the stand and swore that she had seen him lay hands on her in the late 1990s. Despite their divorce in 2002, citing irreconcilable differences, court papers revealed a dark truth about their relationship, one filled with violence and abuse. His ex-wife alleged that he had hit her multiple times, thrown her against walls, and even choked her. But Michael seemingly moved on when he began dating April in 2003. However, the custody battle over his son from his previous marriage proved to be a bitter one. During the hearing, his ex-wife claimed that their infant son was afraid of Michael and that he would often take the child away from her because of his crying. It was April who stood by Michael during this time, testifying to the stability he provided for their child. However, evidence presented by Michael's ex-wife painted a chilling picture, including a text he had sent threatening her with death. The couple ultimately divorced in 2002, with April being awarded full custody of their child. But their lives were forever changed when the son testified against his father in court, revealing that he had witnessed Michael dragging his mother into a hallway and shouting threats before shooting her several times. The defense argued that it was an accident and that Michael had taken responsibility for his actions. They also claimed that Jace had planned the murder while arguing that it was not premeditated, rather a result of a snapped moment during an argument to save their marriage. After both sides presented their arguments, it was time for impact statements to be read. April's mother tearfully delivered an emotional speech, expressing deep sorrow for the loss of her daughter and how it has deeply impacted their family, especially for the grandchildren who will have to navigate their teenage years with this tragedy hanging over them. When given the chance to speak, Michael apologized to his late wife's family, but also maintained that he didn't mean to kill her. As he spoke, April's mother and some of her family left the courtroom, not wanting to hear any more excuses. With the impact statements finished, the jury began deliberating, and after only 2 hours, they reached a verdict. It was clear that Michael's actions had forever changed the lives of both families involved. The courtroom was silent as the sentence was read, the heavy weight of justice finally settling on Michael Jace's shoulders. He had been convicted of second-degree murder and given a 40-year-to-life sentence for the brutal killing of his wife, April Jace. As his lawyer expressed satisfaction at proving it was not premeditated, April's family sat behind him, relieved and emotional after more than 2 years of waiting for justice. April's oldest son, still reeling from the loss of his mother, confessed to feeling depressed every time he saw Jace's face in court. But now, there would be no more reminders, as the man responsible for their beloved April's death was finally held accountable. As a counselor at Biola University, April was known for her joyful spirit and caring nature. Her colleagues remember her as someone who always had a joke or laugh ready and was well loved by all. The tragic news of her gruesome death shocked everyone who knew her. In honor of her memory, the school established a scholarship for underrepresented students who have experienced or witnessed violence in their communities. Our hearts go out to April's friends and family as they continue to process their grief over losing such a vibrant and beloved woman. May she rest in peace, knowing that justice has been served in her name. Thank you for listening to No Tears for Black Girls. Please download the Alive Podcast app and follow us on all major podcast platforms to stay updated with our latest content. If there is a topic or true crime case that you would like us to cover, please send us an email at notearsforblackgirls@gmail.com or visit our website, notearsforblackgirls.com, and leave us a voice message through our contact page. And always remember, stay loved, stay blessed, and be safe.